everybody, Gina DeLuca here. Okay, today more fun with UV paints. Actually, I'm using glow paints today, which you don't necessarily need a black light for or a UV light, but it does work very well. I'm going to do a splash painting with the glow paint, and hopefully I will get a painting that looks good without the light, but one that looks super cool with it. So, colors. I have been mixing and blending various shades of all of these colors. I have the golden phthalo green and the phthalo blue. That is what this is. This will not glow under the black light. That's going to be the darkest parts with or without the light. But all of the other colors have glow paints in them. This is a mixture of white, the titanium white, just a bit of that, and the blue and the green, but also some blue neon, some green glow, and neutral glow. I have some straight neutral glow here. This dries clear. Let's see if I can demonstrate this. If you can see the stick, you can see where it's wet, but it also glows where it dried, and it dried clear. So I will be using this for highlights for the glow part. I have a white. This is titanium white. Now the thing about titanium white is it kind of has a purple glow, but I need it to be able to have a white that I could use to blend for the way the painting will look without a black light. You can see it has a little bit of a purple hue to it. It's kind of bright in here, it's hard to tell. Let me turn these lights off so I can show you what these look like in a black light. So, this camera just goes nuts with the black light. You can see that definitely glows. This is going to be the highlights for the glow painting. Probably not able to see the difference in the hues so much. Let's see. Probably see it a little bit doing it that way. This has none. That is very blue, and you can see a little bit they're glowing. So we're gonna have some fun with that. We'll see what happens. It's all experiment, you know? First, let me show you my Fluid Art inspiration cards. If you haven't seen these, this is what they are. If you have seen them, feel free to fast forward to the painting. There are 52 cards in the deck, 42 technique cards, which this is. Each painting is associated with a video, so you have a tutorial. There's a little box that has a tip, and it has a color palette on it. In the video, all the instructions you need, consistencies, exact paint colors and such. And also, these two boxes are meant to go together. So if you wanted to do a 2-color pour, you could just choose those colors as a challenge to yourself, or just add another color to it. There are also 8 bonus color palette cards, each one having 5 color palettes. Choose all the colors, choose a couple of the colors, mix and match, choose a technique, and then choose a different card for a different color palette, or choose a color palette off of the bonus cards. There you have it. Available on my website, GinaDeLuca.net. The consistency that we're working with is about a 2 or a 3 on my scale. It's making a mound and then it disappears. You don't want it to be too thin because you don't want the colors to run into each other, but you do want them to blend. Let's put down a base coat. Okay, this base coat is down. That was not easy. This base coat was very sheer, very transparent, and that makes it very difficult to get a smooth cover, but we did it. We'll see how this pans out once we start messing around in here. If I forgot to mention, these paints, I added enough Floetrol to make them move the way I want. So there was no ratio that I worked with. I just mixed them together until it was the right consistency. Okay, this is where I'm going to go into high speed mode because this is going to take a while. And we will see what happens. I have this little tool. I'll be using this for a lot of what I'll be doing. Okay. Here goes. Okay, here we go. I am in voiceover mode. So the first thing I'm doing here is just laying out my outline. There are a lot of things that I would have done differently. One of the benefits of recording it is I can go back and say, oh, I probably should have done this differently. So I probably would have started my outline with a slightly lighter color. One of the things that I was doing was trying to come up with 3 different paintings in one. So the idea is it's going to look one way in natural light. So I had to keep that in consideration. And then it would look another way under a UV light. So I have to keep that in consideration. And then when you turn all of the lights off after it's been charged, it will glow on its own. And that has to be kept into consideration. So one of the things that I would have done differently is when I was putting in my highlights, the lightest colors, which winds up being the parts that look reflective or the most sheer, I should have started with the titanium white first. And that titanium white was tinted with, I believe it was the neutral glow paint. But the reason that I would have started with that, I was going back and forth between the straight neutral paint and the titanium white mixed with the neutral glow paint. The neutral glow paint on its own, when it's wet, appears white. But when it dries, it's clear. So the end result, the dried painting, appears slightly darker than what I would have wanted, because my eye was picking up the white from the neutral and thinking that I was laying in a highlight. Now, when I'm using the black light or using just the phosphorescent glow itself once the lights are turned out, those places are highlighted, though they don't necessarily look like it when the lights are on, regular lights. So it was a bit of a challenge, and this was definitely an experiment, and I learned from it to get it to the place where I want color-wise, and then come in at the end with the pure glow paint so that it has an extra glow under the black light and on its own. So regarding doing a splash painting, and there are others on my channel, laying down your midtones gives you the shape, but it's coming in and laying in the highlights and the shadows that really give it that watery effect. So I keep going back and forth in between highlights and shadows in order to gain that effect. And now I'm laying in my droplets. And what I do for those, I will come in with a darker color and then bring in a blob of whatever the background color is. And then I come in and lay down some highlights and I lay down some shadows. And when you're doing the droplets, you know, to remember that your light source would be affecting the droplets in a similar way. So however your shadow falls on one droplet, it should fall the same on the others. Otherwise, it won't look like it's coming from the same light source. And periodically I start checking with the UV light, there we go, quickly, to make sure that I have my glow highlights properly placed. What do I need and where? Another thing I probably would have done differently is the darkest color, that darkest blue-green, I didn't add any glow paint to it. So it comes out very dark in comparison under the black light. So I probably, if I do this again, will add glow paints to all. And if you add the glow paints to a darker paint, it will glow a bit, but it will still maintain its shadows. It will still be darker than a lighter paint that you've added the same amount of glow paint to. And again, putting in highlights. I guess this is the UV, the neutral glow paint. And you'll see that the titanium white has a bit of a pink glow to it. I wonder if I used mixing white, would it appear as pink? That will be something else to try in a future experiment.
as this was drying on my table, I'd leave the room and turn the lights out, and it would just glow on the table. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I think my execution perhaps could have been better. I've had more realistic looking splashes, but again, I was trying to make 3 different paintings at one time because, you know, I enjoy attempting the impossible, or at least the extremely difficult. I do enjoy a challenge. And I was mixing paints together before I started this to see what combinations would work best and what effects occurred when I mixed certain paints together, which is kind of how I came up with the color scheme. And then seeing which paints glowed under the black light, and then seeing how they looked with the lights off. And you'll see when we get to the part where I show you how it looks, it is 3 different looks. And it's pretty nifty. So now I'm laying in some droplets toward the center of the splash. And now I've turned the lights off and I am just adding in straight glow. You can see the camera kind of goes a little nuts sometimes with the UV. I think it confuses the camera. Okay, so now I'm just coming in again with some of my shadows and highlights. That's what a splash is, just more shadows and highlights and shadows and highlights. But not forgetting to put in that background color. You definitely need a good bit of that to get that transparent, watery effect. And now I'm just using a skewer to put in some very fine lines. Wet on wet painting is a challenge, for sure, but I find that for painting water, it's perfect because water it's wet and it reacts like a fluid, and because it's a fluid, and so you're using the fluid paint, and when you're blending paints together, play around a little bit with the technique and you'll see it winds up looking like water on its own. Okay, here it is in regular light. One of the challenges that I'm finding is the one color that gives the yellow glow dries clear. So where I thought I had a highlight is drying up clear. But that is how it looks in its current form. And here it is with a black light. There it is. Definitely looks cool under the black light. Let's take a look at the, there. I had a helper, but I think I have to do this part myself. The droplets.
So there you have it, all fancy and glowing. And most of these paints are actually glow paints and not just blacklight paint. So in a dark room, once you turn off the lights, you will see some glow. It's still daylight right now, so I don't know if it's going to work, but let's see. There you go for a second till the light kicks in. But if you don't have a black light, this is what it will look like when you turn off the lights. Pretty groovy. Okay, so there it is. If you enjoyed, if you learned something, please like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. Now there's a Venmo tip jar as well, and they don't take a cut, so I dig on that. Also is my, is that hair? Oh, it is a hair. I'll have to get that. Also in the description box is my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can purchase my art and music and fluid art inspiration cards. Our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there. Post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. And surely there's something else in there that I'm forgetting. Oh, my Amazon store. If you enter through that link in the description box, anything you purchase off the entire site of Amazon, I receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. So there it is. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a beautiful day. Oh, don't forget to click that bell if you want to receive notifications when new content is uploaded. All right. There you have it. Have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.